A powerful millionaire kneels at his daughter's grave, breaking down under the weight of a regret no amount of money can erase. He believes he lost her forever after choosing success over love, unaware that the child he mourns is still alive. What he thinks is an ending is actually the moment fate prepares a second chance neither of them expects. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of our shared humanity, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel Kindled Souls. Your support helps keep these meaningful stories alive. The rain fell in slow, heavy drops, soaking the black marble headstone as a powerful man knelt before it, his shoulders trembling in a way no boardroom rival had ever seen. A self-made millionaire, feared by competitors and admired by the world, now looked small and broken as he pressed his forehead against the cold stone bearing his daughter's name. He believed this was the place where his world had ended years ago. What he did not know was that, just beyond the line of trees, a young woman stood watching him quietly, her heart pounding, her breath shaking. The daughter he believed he had buried was alive, and she had come to see whether the man who once chose money over her still had a heart. The man kneeling at the grave had built his empire from nothing. Born into poverty in a small American town, he learned early that life was unforgiving to the weak. His childhood was marked by hunger, unstable homes, and promises that were never kept. As he grew older, he made a vow that he would never be powerless again. That vow became the fire that drove him through sleepless nights, risky investments, and ruthless decisions. By the time he reached his 40s, his name was known in financial circles across the country. Luxury cars, glass towers, and magazine covers followed him wherever he went. Yet, for all his success, his home remained painfully quiet. His daughter had once been the one light in that quiet house. She was born during the earliest days of his struggle, when he still believed success and love could coexist without sacrifice. He remembered her small hands gripping his finger, her laughter echoing through modest apartments, and the way she used to wait by the door when he came home late. But as his business grew, his presence shrank. Meetings replaced bedtime stories. Business trips replaced school recitals. He told himself it was temporary, that one day he would slow down and make it up to her. That day never came. When his wife passed away suddenly due to illness, the fragile balance in their home collapsed. Grief consumed him, but instead of turning toward his daughter, he buried himself deeper in work. She became a reminder of a life he could no longer control, and distance grew between them. The girl felt invisible, abandoned in a mansion that felt colder than any small apartment they had once shared. She tried to reach him through notes, through silence, through rebellion, but nothing pierced the armor he had built around his heart. The night everything changed was marked by a storm not unlike the one falling now. A heated argument erupted between father and daughter, fueled by years of unspoken pain. Harsh words were spoken, words that could never be taken back. He accused her of being ungrateful, of not understanding the sacrifices he had made. She accused him of never being there, of loving money more than family. When she walked out that door, he believed she would return as she always had. Instead, the next call he received shattered his world. A car accident. A body identified. A funeral arranged in a blur of disbelief and denial. He stood at the graveside that day in a suit worth more than most people's homes, unable to cry, unable to breathe, unable to accept that his daughter was gone. The world told him she was dead, and he believed it because the truth was too painful to question. From that day forward, guilt became his constant companion. No achievement could silence the memory of her face the night she left. No amount of money could buy back time. Years passed, and the man aged visibly. His hair grayed, his posture stooped, and his once sharp eyes dulled with regret. He funded charities, built hospitals, and donated to children's causes, but none of it eased the weight in his chest. He visited the grave often, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily. He spoke to the stone as if she could hear him, confessing apologies he never had the courage to say when she was alive. He told her about the business deals he no longer cared about, the empty house, and the silence that followed him everywhere. What he never knew was that the accident had been a tragic mistake. His daughter had survived, pulled from the wreck unconscious and without identification. A mix-up at the hospital, combined with the chaos of the storm, led to another young woman being misidentified as his child. When she finally woke days later, disoriented and injured, she learned that she had been declared dead. Fear and confusion overtook her, and believing her father no longer wanted her, she made a decision that would shape her life. She chose not to return. She was taken in by a kind nurse who sensed her pain and helped her start over. Over the years, she rebuilt herself quietly, carrying the weight of abandonment and the belief that she had been unloved. She followed news of her father from afar, watching him rise even higher while she struggled through college, jobs, and healing. She told herself she was better off without him, but the truth lingered like an open wound. She longed for closure, for proof that she had mattered. One day, driven by a need she could no longer suppress, she returned to the town she once fled. Disguised by time and distance, she went to the cemetery, unsure of what she hoped to find. What she saw shattered her assumptions. The powerful man she remembered was gone. In his place was a broken father kneeling in the mud, crying openly at a grave that bore her name. His sobs were not quiet or controlled. They were raw, desperate, and filled with a pain that words could never capture. From behind the trees, she watched him trace the letters of her name with trembling fingers. She watched him bow his head as if begging forgiveness from the earth itself. In that moment, years of resentment collided with a truth she had never allowed herself to consider. He had loved her, even if he had failed to show it when it mattered most. The realization broke something inside her, replacing anger with a deep, aching compassion. She began to observe him from a distance over the following days, learning the rhythms of his regret. She saw how he left flowers anonymously at children's hospitals, how he sat alone in his car after charity events, how he returned to the grave whenever the weight became too heavy. The man who had once seemed invincible was living in a prison of his own making, and she held the key to his freedom. The decision to reveal herself was not easy. Fear whispered that reopening old wounds would only bring more pain. Doubt questioned whether forgiveness was even possible. But kindness, she realized, was not about fairness or timing. It was about courage. It was about choosing love over pride. And so, on a quiet afternoon, she stepped out of the shadows and walked toward the man who had unknowingly mourned her for years. When he saw her, time seemed to stop. His world fractured and reassembled in a single breath. The impossible stood before him, alive and real. His knees buckled, and the grief that had defined his life transformed into something else entirely, overwhelming relief mixed with shame, disbelief, and hope. He reached out as if afraid she would disappear, tears streaming freely down his face. The reunion did not erase the past, but it rewrote the future. Healing came slowly, through shared silences, honest reflection, and acts of forgiveness that spoke louder than words. The daughter discovered that her father's absence had been rooted in fear, not indifference. The father learned that love unexpressed can be just as painful as love denied. Together they began to rebuild what had been lost, one fragile moment at a time. The man who once believed success was measured in wealth now understood its true value. He stepped back from his empire, choosing presence over profit, connection over control. The grave that once symbolized his greatest regret became a reminder of life's second chances. And the daughter who had watched from the shadows found peace not in revenge, but in compassion. As this story comes to an end, if it touched your heart or made you reflect on forgiveness, family, and second chances, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindled Souls to support stories that celebrate humanity. Before you go, we have one special request. Please comment below with a single line about what this story made you feel or who it reminded you of. Your words may help someone else heal. Because sometimes, the greatest act of kindness is believing that it is never too late to love again.